So we'll start as we usually do. Find a comfortable seat and always a deep breath, just a nice deep breath, no special way. Just an easy, unforceful breath. And thank you for joining. For the past couple of weeks, we've been learning, including me, learning about mudras. And it just so happened that I kept picking the mudras that related to the root chakra. And the root chakra relates to a lot of things, but what I found most interesting is it relates to the material world. And that's kind of what we're, in a way, struggling with. So the mudras related to that chakra are grounding, centering, fearlessness, calming, and surrender. So I thought for the opening breathing, I would give you guys a choice because we've done these throughout the last week or so. So you can pick whichever one speaks to you. So the first one is the grounding mudra. And all it is make peace signs with your fingers and tuck the ring finger and the pinky finger in and just rest the thumb on top. And you can point it down to the ground, i.e. grounding. The next one is centering. So all you have to do here, it's the same thing that we usually do with this very common classic mudra, but instead you're going to bring thumb to ring finger, like so, and you can put that here. The other one is fearlessness, which is just this. Cupping your hand, keeping your fingers tight. Calming, which is tuck your thumbs in, make a fist around your thumbs. And the last one is the most complex. Surrender, which is this. Tense your fingers. You're going to tuck the middle finger and the ring finger in, which means that the pointer and the pointer and the pinky are still sticking up. And then bring your thumbs to your middle and ring finger. And then you just tuck that in here. I'm going to choose to do this one. And if I went too fast and you didn't follow, just do what you're accustomed to doing. And we're going to take 5 breaths just to come into the room on your mat at this moment. So breathing is very simple. You can just follow your breath. It can be as deep, it can be as shallow as it is, meeting yourself where you are. And in that way, you keep getting clear messages from within. Sometimes listening to your breath is enough. Sometimes just listening to the sounds around you. And after the next breath, you can stay here. We're going to do 5 rounds of Viloma breathing. And if you haven't done this with me before, I'll talk you through it. So we're going to inhale, deep inhale, deep exhale. And then step by step, we're going to inhale. So you're going to inhale, pause, inhale, pause, inhale, pause, inhale, pause, inhale, pause, hold it. And then we're going to exhale, pause, exhale, pause, exhale, pause, exhale, pause, exhale, pause, hold it. So all the breath is out. And now to get the breath in, you're going to inhale, pause, inhale, pause, inhale, pause, inhale, pause, inhale, pause, hold it. Exhale, pause, exhale, pause, exhale, pause, exhale, pause, hold it. Last time, inhale, pause. We're doing 5 steps. Inhale, pause. Inhale, pause. Inhale, pause. Inhale, pause. Hold it. All the breath is held inside those beautiful lungs. Exhale, pause. Exhale, pause. Exhale, pause. Exhale, pause. Exhale, pause. Bring your breath back to normal. And just release your hands, wherever they are. I have to fix that. Sorry. And just before we move on, take notice of what might have changed. If your breathing was shallow, it might have become deeper, might have become longer, it might have become fuller. You might have accomplished being more present in this moment on the mat. And that's where I'd like us to start. So just stay with that. That's all about paying attention. I'm going to lie down. And before we move into any other poses, we're just going to take our attention to the natural curve of the spine, which is here. Take 5 rounds. I'm going to move my hand so you can see, of exaggerating the space between the lower back and the floor. So that's the equivalent of a cow. And then we're going to exaggerate pressing the lower back into the mat. And what you're going to start to notice is you're swinging your pelvis. So we're going to do 5 of these. So you're going to inhale to your cow, if you care to breathe this way. Exhale to your cat. Inhale to your cow, and so on. So we'll do 3, and 2, and 1. Specifically doing this so that you know what it feels like to have the natural curve of the spine. But as we move on, I want you to try and preserve that to the best of your ability. So we're going to actually start with a very classic way of ending the practice. Just going to bring your knees towards your armpits, I guess, and arms are inside your legs. Hold on to the outside of your feet, and we're in a happy baby. We usually end the practice this way, but in trying to be a little different. But it's really to wake up your hips. That's the purpose of the start of this class, is to go deep and to wake up your hips. So as you start to bend your elbows, you'll notice how much deeper you get into your hip crease, and then you can kind of go to your tailbone and check and make sure it's not curling up to the ceiling too much. And one more breath. I'm going to bring the soles of the feet together. You can still hold on to the outsides of your feet and draw your feet closer to your body. You'll notice how that gets a little bit deeper and more intense in the hips. And again, I want you to kind of exaggerate the cow. So stick your butt out a little bit. You'll notice you go a little deeper into those hips when you do that. If you want to, just to explore, you can go to your cat and you can go to your cow, or you can press the lower back into the floor or lift the lower back off the floor and just breathe into your hips here. Leave the left knee bent, and you're going to take the right leg, and this is to your edge. So if holding onto your foot limits you, hold on to the calf and just stretch your heel up towards the ceiling, and go back and check and make sure that you're not curling your tailbone around your lower back into the floor. Inhale and exhale. If you're able to hold on higher, but it's not about that. And then you're just going to take that right leg out to the side. First, you're going to keep it turned in, parallel. 2 more breaths. And then we're going to turn it out and notice how that changes the experience. You might actually be able to go a little further. If you have a strap, you can use a strap, but I didn't check with everybody. And then we're going to bring it back in, tuck that foot in, Padkonasana variation. And again, just play around with the hip opening. Keep the right knee bent. Straighten the left leg straight up. Reach through the heel. Inhale, exhale, and check in and make sure that lower back's not slamming into the floor. You're going to take that leg out to the side to your edge, parallel, breathing, and reaching through the heel. One more breath, and then we're going to turn it out. And once you turn it out, you might notice you go a little bit further. Then you do get into your inner thigh a little bit more. Inhaling and exhaling. And bring it back. Tuck it in. You're going to release the legs. Bring the feet down to the floor with your knees bent. Always checking in natural curve of the spine. Otherwise, you're going to be shortening your psoas and creating all kinds of havoc in your lower back. Take the right ankle, cross it over the left knee, and draw the left knee in towards your chest. Everybody has a different range here. No matter what range you have, check in and make sure you're not curling your tailbone. So we're doing this purposefully for that. Inhaling and exhaling, opening up our hips. And you can actually draw your left leg towards your chest. Pigeon variation, in case you didn't notice. One more breath. So this gets a little complicated. The left foot is going to come down to the mat, and then you're going to walk it over to the right, dropping both knees down. So it's a half lotus variation. And again, everybody's got a different range here. The point is we're trying to awaken and stretch your hip flexors, right? You don't even have to think about the natural curve of the spine because it's there, right? And use your breath and drop your knees. We're specifically trying to feel it on the right side. And if you don't, maybe you can lift the left and drop the right a little bit more. After the next breath, cross the knees and draw your heels. If you can hold on to your feet and you can draw your heels up towards the ceiling, don't take them any further than your knees. If you have a problem with this, you can just draw your knees in towards your chest. And we're going to take 5 breaths here. If you're holding onto your feet, keep your elbows soft, and then check in with your tailbone and make sure you're not curling it towards the ceiling. You want to kind of aim it down towards the mat or towards the wall in front of you. Inhaling and exhaling. And let that go. Bring both feet down to the mat. Shake it out if you need to. Left ankle over right knee and draw the knee in towards your chest. And this one you do take the risk of curling your tailbone or smashing your lower back into the floor, so check it out. And use your breath. And the more you explore that idea of not curling your tailbone, you'll notice, hopefully, that you wake up different parts of the body than you would if you curled your tailbone. You're going to bring that right foot down to the floor and walk it over to the left. By now, hopefully, you understand how to get into this pose. And you don't have to worry about the lower back. Opening up the hip flexors, inhaling and exhaling. One more breath. Bring those knees back up. Keep the knees knotted for your cow variation. And same thing. If you don't have the range of motion to hold on to your feet, just hold on to your knees and pull them in towards your chest. If you can hold on to your feet, don't take your heels any further than your knees. And attention to natural curve of the spine. Take a few breaths. Send your attention to where you're feeling it most. Energy follows attention. We're looking for energy to go into those hips. And let it go. Uncross your knees, bring them towards your chest. Take your arms out to the side, shoulder height. You can turn your palms up just for formality's sake. Drop the knees over to the right. And we're going to just take a few breaths here. It's a lovely twist, playing with your diagonals. Sending your attention where the signals are coming from. It's possible it's coming from here or from here, so just send your attention there. You're going to stay here and you're going to straighten the top knee. That's all. Don't worry about where it goes, just straighten the top knee and you will have awakened your IT band. Especially if you turn your toes down to the floor, you'll really feel that IT band. It needs a lot of love. And bend the knees, bring them back to the center, over to the other side. Take a few breaths here just to pay attention, send your attention to where you're feeling it. That's where the signals are coming from, and that's what needs your attention. Using the breath, nice deep breath. And then we're just going to straighten that right knee. Again, can you see my foot? If I turn in other words, go pigeon-toed, you see it, one gigantic foot probably. And let all that energy move internally. One more breath. Bring everything back. Just rock it back and forth. You can also circle. Feels kind of good. If you do your circles, make sure you go the other way. And rock up to a seated position. Let's sit in an easy seat. Right foot in front of left. So we already started to open up those hips. And we took some easy twists. So this might be, oops. Unfortunately, I can see myself and I can see that it did a terrible job on my hair. So before we move on, let's kind of get our bearings here and feel that pelvic floor soundly, safely. Spine rises effortlessly. Crown of the head just floats up. So even if you bring your arms up for a second and let your shoulders slide down, right? So maybe we'll bring the arms up to a V and we'll let them go where they want to go, towards the ears, and then we'll carefully and slowly slide them down. So we know the difference, right? So we're going to squeeze them up and we're going to drop them down. See if you can actually feel where the blades slide into the back. You can kind of feel it, actually. Let's do one more. Nice. So we're going to take a twist to the left. We've been doing these a lot, so hopefully you don't need that much instruction here. Just to savor the beauty of this twist, because you can go really deep. One more breath. Stay deep in your twist, because we're going to take it into a side bend. Which only means that you're leaning the right shoulder to the right knee and you're reaching through these fingertips so that you feel as long as possible on the left side, as though you're pulling your shirt out of your pants and the butt goes down towards the wall. This is the edge. Stay here. Visualize the axis of your spine, because all you're going to do is pivot to face your knee. Don't worry about your shoulders, just scoop your abdominals in. You can also look all the way to the right to get a nice stretch in your neck. Breathing. We're going to come back to our seat. Right leg goes out to the side. Fold forward from the tailbone and walk your fingertips out as far as you can without dislodging your shoulders. So as you're doing all of that, your foot is thinking you're not paying attention. However, reminder, reach through the heel, fire up the back of the leg.
David?
Buttock bones on the floor.
Haters have not been fed.
I can hear you, Dina. And walk over to the right leg. Fold forward. Here, once you find your edge, it's okay to drop your head and use your breath. Inhaling and exhaling. I'm going to take the left hand on the outside of the right leg and take a twist. So we've already done all these actions in a much more gentle way, lying on the floor. So now you can actually ask yourself to go a little deeper, particularly using the breath in your abdominals, right? Inhaling and exhaling. When we come back up to our seat, take this right leg, swing it behind you for a pigeon. So we did that pigeon modification, lying down. So this hip should be nice and warmed up. And in this pigeon, we're going to be here for 5 breaths. So you can do this, or you can do this. You can even do this. And all we're doing is trying to level off those hips. Imagining or knowing actually that you're doing a fold on the left and an unfold on the right. For some reason, miraculously, it levels off the hips. Inhaling and exhaling. So everybody come up to the position that I'm in, and we're just going to take a nice walk over to the left, always loving your edge. So some people have hard edges, some people have soft edges. An edge is an edge. We're going to bring it back to the center and over to the other side. If you hadn't noticed, we're doing hip openers. Inhaling and exhaling. Coming back to the center, bring that right knee to meet the left foot. You might have to do a little adjusting here. Kind of nice to take the arch of the foot and wrap it around the knee. And don't worry about being on a sound pelvic floor. Some people can, some people can't. And if you need to sit on something, please sit on something. Take an awkward twist to the right. Always visualizing the corkscrew close to the spine. And you can't get there without using your breath. We're going to swing over to this side, roll into this hip. Take a couple of breaths to target this space, okay? Internal actions here. Internal action here is to roll that hip. And the more you roll it, the more you'll feel it. And then we're just going to walk behind ourselves to go a little bit further and use the breath and the abdominals. One more breath. Let's back that up a little bit to come here, because we're going to lift the hip and bring the arm over, take a stretch, and then we're going to drop down again, roll forward, lift and stretch. You can do 2 more of these. Roll forward, lift and open, roll forward, lift and open, and bring everything back down to the mat. This time the left foot's going to be in front of the right. Reset, recalibrate, pelvic floor, spine, head up, arms up. Drop the shoulders. Let's just take a circle. You might hear a lot of clicking. I do. Try to make this about the shoulders and not the arms, right? So we isolate. And then we're going to go the opposite way. You might make a silly face for 3 and 2 and 1 and twisting to the right. Corkscrew twist. Deepest twist you can possibly muster. Take a couple of breaths pulling your tummy in, just so that you make a little impression about how much deeper you can go when you incorporate your abdominals When you're at the edge, we're going to lean left shoulder, left knee. This is all to wake up this right side. So if you let your right hip come up, you're not going to have as much awakening. Parts are going to stay asleep. So instead, you want to aim that right butt down, and then you have something to lengthen away from. And don't forget these fingers. Really reach through the fingers. So when you hit your edge here, we're going to rotate to bring fingertips on either side of the left knee. You should feel that here. This is wakening up, right? Those back ribs. And notice when you scoop your abdominals in, changes the experience quite a bit. One more breath. Sitting back up, left leg out. Practice reaching through the heel, because when you fold forward, that foot's gonna try to sneak a little relaxing. You don't want it to relax, you want it to stay active. And use your breath. In some cases, you don't go very far in this particular fold, so don't judge it. Just meet it where it is. Inhaling and exhaling. Going to stay where you are and walk it over and fold. Again, you want to try to keep these toes aiming up to the ceiling so that your foot's parallel or square, and you keep reaching through that heel. Taking the right hand on the outside, I'm going to take a really nice deep twist. Might feel a little tight here. So again, don't go any further than your edge, but use your breath and use your abdominals, and you might start to have a bit of progress, a little bit of going further. Not that you have to. Nice. When we come back up to seated position, just take that left leg behind you into your version of your pigeon. A lot of people think that this foot is supposed to be lined up with this knee. It's not the case. What's most important is that your hips are square. And if you visualize fold on the left and unfold on the right, it is magic. Your hips square off. So if you want to just repeat that like a mantra, it'll actually have an effect of squaring off or equalizing your hips. Your choice. We're going to stay here for a couple more breaths. And a really nice thing to recruit is that understanding of gravity coming down, right? So the gravity is coming down on your whole back body, and you can use that to go settle into this pose a little bit deeper. We're going to come up on fingertips, whatever is comfortable for you. Just check in, make sure the shoulders are sliding down. Take a walk to your edge to the right. And make sure you feel the toes of the left foot cross from the big toe to the little toe. Coming back to the center and over to the other side. You constantly allow gravity to help you. When we come back to the center, bring the left knee up to the right foot and let the arch wrap around the knee. Take an awkward twist to the left. In this twist, the tendency is to sink, so you want to try to stay lifted. So there's always an up and there's always a down. There's always a forward, there's always a back, and so on and so forth. So the bottom, of course, is the mat, or your butt on the mat, and the top is the crown of the head. Swinging over to the other side, just to warm it up, we're going to roll into that left hip. Walk around ourselves and just keep rolling this hip. What we're trying to do is make a connection from here up through your torso. If you use your abdominals, you might start to feel that. Walk it back a little bit, just to about here. I'm going to lift the hips and bring the arm up overhead. So here's that side that we opened up. Breathe into it. And then we're just going to speed it up a little bit. So you're going to drop the butt here and roll. Bring it up. 2 more times. Roll into that left hip and then stretch it out. Roll and stretch it out. Come back to the center. And let's come on to hands and knees. Shifting the hips if you want to. Hands are underneath the shoulders, knees are underneath the hips. Simple, classic cat-cow. Inhale for your cow, exhale for your cat. With everything that we just did, you might feel a little tenderness or need of stretching in your back. So let's do 2 more of these. Inhale. You stay in the cat and slowly rock it back a little bit because you might feel different parts of your back that we just used or opened up. So we're just going to stay in the cat. If you want to come forward to a cow, you can. Not going to go all the way back. We're just going to go halfway back so that you can stay in a very rounded back. Pulling your tummy in. 1 more of those. And then we're going to do full inhale. Sit back on your heels. Inhale. Back on your heels. We'll do 3 more. Inhale. For 2. And for 1. Stay in your child's pose. Shift it back and forth. Bring toes together, knees apart. Sit back on your heels again. Settle into this, so you'll definitely go a little bit further here. Gentle upper body twist. I'm doing this so that you can see it. Take the left arm threaded through until the elbow is in front of the knee. Just make a fist with the left hand and wrap the right hand around it. And you'll notice that this twist is more in the upper body. So use your breath. Coming back to your frog. Threading the right arm until the elbow is almost in front of the knee or in front of the knee. Make a fist with the right hand and wrap the left hand around it. Using the leverage, upper body twist. So FYI, twists are beneficial for a lot of different things, but twists really keep the kidneys and the liver healthy, which they are very impacted by stress and anxiety. So keeping them healthy and twisting them out and letting them do their job is a gift. We're going to find our way onto our tummies. Sphinx Cobra. Elbows under shoulders. See if you can bar. Good. Just rock your hips back and forth to loosen them up. Because before we start, I just want to review this. We tend to grip our glutes. So you want to stay very aware and pay a lot of attention to not clenching. So before we start, release the glutes and engage the abdominals. So that's the flip side of it. Take your elbows and isometrically draw them back. You might start to feel that the blades can slide down the back, which is the point here. And then you can really open your heart. Don't do too much with your throat. So this is more or less throat, more lower, middle to upper back. And just stay here for a couple of breaths just so you can get it. Check in with your glutes, release them. Check in with your abdominals, engage them. That's mostly what this is for. Nice. If at any time your lower back feels cranky, just sit back on your heels. If you're okay, lower yourself all the way down. Take your arms out to the side, even with your shoulders. You're gonna lift the left leg, bring it behind you, and then take a little roll over to the right. This is literally to stretch the front of the right shoulder. Try not to hyperextend into that elbow, but it's almost impossible. Just be careful. Hopefully you're feeling it through that pec, which is what we're trying to do. If it's available to you, you can take that top arm and bring it behind and do a little clasping and stretching. So if you can do that, you can actually take it a little bit further, go a little bit deeper. Back onto the tummy. Just take a minute to reset yourself up, set up the frame. And again, lift the right leg, bring it behind. We're opening up here. If you want to bring this arm behind you, you have to be the judge. But what we're trying to open up is this pec, which also gets very, very tight. Nice. Rolling back onto the tummy. We're going to do one more Sphinx just because. Bring your elbows underneath your shoulders. And again, you can just do the same one we just did, or if you want to go a little bit deeper here. First, check in with your glutes. Second, use your abdominals. Isometric, draw the elbows back. Make sure the blades are sliding down. And then if you can, without disrupting too much, and remember, less throat, more shoulders, right? And let those blades slide down your back. And again, please be the judge, because you do not want your lower back to get the brunt of this. It's really your upper back. And lower down, sitting back on your heels. We're going to sit here for a reasonable amount of time so that we can release the lower back. We're going to do our sequence. I think all of you know it. If not, I'll call it out. Let me do one, because I know there's some people here who haven't been here either for a while. Anyway, so we're going to inhale, come forward. If you want to join me, if you know this, roll over to your dog. Exhale. Wave it forward. Wave it back. Down to the knees and back to the heels. So here we go for 5. Inhale, bring it forward, upward facing dog. Exhale, over the toes, downward facing dog. Wave it forward. Wave it back. Down to the knees. Inhale, exhale. 4 more. Inhale. Over the toes. It's a good time to open your toes. Here's that cat to cow. That's like Utkatasana shape. Inhale. Got 3 more. Inhale. Exhale. Dog becomes a plank. Plank becomes a dog. Inhale. Inhale becomes an exhale. 2 more. Inhale, upward facing. Exhale. If my counting is wrong, that's par for the course. And down. Inhale. And last one. Inhale. Exhale. Wave it forward. Wave it back. Come on down to your knees. Sit back on your heels. If you want to keep your toes turned under so we get our toe bending happening, we can do that. The more you tuck them under, the more stretch you get. You can also sit back on your heels and let your toes bend. When you next bring your fingertips down to the floor, we're just going to unfold this to a hang. We're going to step and fold a little bit. So make sure your feet are hips width. Make sure the heels are behind the second and third toe. Take a moment to actually let your feet feel the floor. Take a moment to use your breath. Take a moment to come back home. So in the breathing in the beginning, it's just a practice of bringing everything back to the center, right? So even in this pose, since we're in it for 5 breaths, you can take that journey from external to internal, from macro to micro. Soften your knees, use your abdominals to roll up. Oops, I'm decapitated. Hold on, let me rearrange here. Let's see, I'm gonna face you so you guys can see me. So we're gonna bring the arms out shoulder height. Let them drop down the back. We're gonna isolate just the shoulders, roll them forward, arms and hands, pinkies down to the floor. Roll just the shoulders, arms and hands, pinkies up to the ceiling for 2. So it's an isolation. Might need to practice it or you might get it right away. It's really to target those shoulder blades. So one more time, rolling forward, and one more time, rolling back. Soften the arms so that you're having more of a conversation with your shoulder blades. Once you get those shoulder blades attached, nothing moves but the hands. They're going to face down, flex, and stretch. And think about it like a ping pong ball going back and forth from hand to hand energetically. Take the left hand up overhead, hold on underneath that wrist, lift away first, and then over to the side. So once you're there, you want to reach through the heel of the left hand. You can shift your hips over if you feel safe to do that. Inhaling and exhaling. Bring it back to the center. Have a conversation with the blades. Introduce them to the back. Switch your hands up first and then over. Reach through that right heel of the hand, and you can shift your hips as long as you feel safe doing that. Make sure your heart stays open. And bringing it back. You can take a long spine to fold forward. Doesn't matter where your hands are. So now, fingertips on the floor. If they can be there. If not, you can soften your knees. We're going to take 5 breaths to do an abduction. It's just another internal action that you can stick in your toolbox and pull out when you need it. Press the balls of the big toes down, outer edges of the heels apart, and then you might actually feel it's like a sizzle going up the outsides of the legs all the way up to your buttock bones and even further across your sacrum. About 2 more breaths. After the next breath, keeping your fingertips on the floor, we're going to lift this right leg, square off your hips. So that means you're going to aim those toes down to the floor. And then you're going to drop that right foot about, I don't know, maybe 3 feet, heel to heel. Take a moment here to fold forward. You want to feel both feet on the floor evenly. You want to be reaching through the corners of those heels. Fingertips on the floor, lifting the left toes and bending the right knee. Try and check in with your hips. So here's where practicing squaring off your hips in a pigeon comes in handy. So you want to keep thinking of that level tool on your sacrum, using your breath. Inhale, exhale, and coming back, shifting the weight onto the left foot. Walk the fingertips forward. Just take a moment to do a lift of the right leg. Bring the right foot next to the left. Center yourself, and then float the left leg up. Toes pointing down to the floor. Level hips to start. Step it back about 3 feet. Fold forward first. Take a stretch. Feel both feet evenly. Corners of the heels. You also can pay attention to the ball of the big toe on the right. Gonna lift this foot and bend the back. If you want to, you can come up on the toes of the back foot to go a little further, but you don't have to. But you can aim your butt back and unround your back. You're gonna step it forward, take a little balance. And roll it up. Let's bring feet a little wider than our hips. Folding forward. When the feet are wider, it might be easier to get your fingertips on the floor. Bending your knees and dropping into your squat. So it's a squat prep. We're not trying to get to a full squat here at all. We're just trying to keep using the heat that we generated through those hips, and the butt goes up and the head goes down. I'm going to do one more of those. Then sit. Imagine peanuts in your hip crease and you're crushing them. That often gets a laugh. Butt up, head down. So now in order to get into a full squat, and those of you who can't do squats, just go as far as you can. Come way up on the balls of the feet, dropping deeper. So you might get deeper into your hips. You're going to drop those heels and then see if you can bring, if your heels need to come in, that is absolutely fine. And use your breath. You could come out of this, go back into it, or you could stay here. And if you stay here, it's kind of, I'm going to fix my feet a little bit. It's a way to practice unrounding your back. And if you're able to press your arms into your knees and press your knees out, you'll feel a much more, a bigger commitment to your hip crease. And then butt goes up, head goes down. Let's just go a little wider. Standing split. Fold forward. Fingertips on the floor. Try to straighten your spine or unround your back. You're going to take a walk over to the right. Turn the right foot. Turn the back foot a little bit. Keep that right hand. It can go on your foot. If you need a block, find a block or fingertips. And triangle pose. And use your breath. And think about going pigeon-toed in your hips. That'll change the pose and it might give you a little more space. Inhale, exhale. If you want to take this one step further, bring the arm overhead and switch your hands. So the left hand will come onto the outside of the right foot if possible. And use your breath, pull your tummy in. Inhale, exhale. Come back to the center with parallel feet. Fold forward, bend your knees. Kind of feels good to go into a squat and move it back and forth, not a full squat. Walking fingertips over to the left, turn the left foot, turn the right foot. Triangle pose on the left. Use your breath. Think about pigeon-toed in the hips. If you want to go into another variation, Arm overhead, which is really nice. Brings in all that side space. And revolved Trikonasana. And sometimes all you might want to do is practice and only go halfway into the pose. Fold forward. We're going to heel toe the feet together. Go down to our ballet squat. Aim the tailbone back, crown of the head forward. If you want to take your knees, I don't like the knees going too far out, so try to keep them at a reasonable width. But you do want to unround your back to get to the SI joint. And use your breath. Inhale, exhale. So this brings us down to the mat again. And I have a wonderful thing planned for you. We've been practicing this. It's a boat variation. So let's come here. Most of us can do this. And practice pulling your tummy in on the exhale. It's a very kind of basic way of using your abdominals, but it really works. And it also introduces your body to this boat idea, because all these poses are ideas. Use your breath. And remember, the pose is the context within which to practice internal actions, which includes breathing and pulling your tummy in, very important. So then after 5 breaths, we're going to take it here. This might be a challenge for some. If you're feeling it in your hip flexors, it's because you're not using your abdominals. Sorry. So you got to pull that tummy in on the exhale. Inhale, exhale. One more breath. Let's release it in case you guys were starting to get a little action in your hip flexors. So I'm going to give you a choice. You can go back to here, like holding this for 5 and holding this for 5, or, and you might need to modify, I'm going to hold on. So this is where we started, right? In this Baddha Konasana. You can also just do this. Maybe I'll do this so you can, right? So this is where we started. Just a little less contact with the floor. So you might want to take one leg out at a time. If that works, try both. That definitely is a challenge, but it is doable. If you're able to get here, pull your tummy in on the exhale. Just changes the experience. And in a way, it's another form of centering. I'm going to hold on to my big toes with my grounding fingers. So I'm just giving you guys a chance to get at least 10 breaths in here, whichever variation you've chosen. Just make sure that you're pulling your tummy in. And when we're done, we're going to practice in a variation. This is called Kurmasana. Can you see what I'm doing? So it's kind of that split. And you're going to kind of drop your elbows down to the floor if you can. And coincidentally, this is also a squat. So those of you who have a problem with squat, this is your chance to play with squat. It's also a very deep forward bend. So I'm going to let you guys warm yourselves up in this. We've done so much hip opening today that I feel justified to be springing this on you. Now, if you can bring your feet together, this too, please do it in, honoring your edge. The full pose, I think I have to turn to the side. And everybody's got a different way of getting into this. So if you can bring your hands here and fold forward and potentially get your head on your feet or wherever they land, that's good. And I'm happy with that. If you have this pose or you want to practice this pose, you're gonna now bring your hands like this and try and get them behind you. Right? So this is the ultimate forward bend. And wherever you are in this, let's just take 5 more breaths. As with everything else, you want to include your abdominals, so just pull your tummy in on the exhale, especially since we just included them. 2 more breaths. And 1 more breath. And make your way out of the pose. This is never pretty. Never, ever pretty. Let's find our way down to the mat on our backs. Give a little rock back and forth. And windshield wiper your knees. Might feel kind of good on your lower back. Come back to the center. Feet are on the floor. Lift your butt and move it over to the left. Cross the left knee over the right. If you can cross your ankle, cross it. If not, don't worry about it. Arms come out to the side. And just let your knees drop to your edge. Even if you need to use something to block. Try to release everything so that you're not gripping anywhere. Particularly around your waist. 1 more breath. Back to the center. Uncross your legs. Lift your hips, move them over to the right. Cross your knees, cross your ankles. Go to your edge. Check in with the right shoulder. Make sure it's aiming towards the floor. One more breath. Back to the center. One more twist. Take the feet out to the edge of the mat. Drop your knees. Let's see. Drop your knees over to the right. Bring the left arm overhead. And this is going to undo all that hip crease folding and hip opening, because this brings the whole front body into the equation. And bring it back to the center. Knees to the left. Left heel over right knee. Right arm overhead. Square your shoulders off. And pull your tummy in. Contract into your abdominals. And when we come back to the center, let that all settle in. Make our way up. Comfortable seat. Hands at heart. If anybody's interested in Shavasana, when this class is over, please feel free to do a Shavasana. In lieu of that, just bring your hands together, Anjali Mudra. Actually, keep your hands soft so that there's a space between your palms. After all that we just did, a lot of heat might be generating and swirling around there, so just send your attention there. Talk about the subtle stuff. The subtle stuff is usually the most powerful. So just breathe into and acknowledge and pay attention to that energy swirling between your palms. Soft touch of the fingertips. Nice, easy breath. Thumbs into the eye sockets. Thumb pads, a little pillow for your higher being to rest on. Just picture that little being in your third eye, center of the universe. And then extend your fingertips out to the edges of that universe. You're doing macro and micro at the same time. And the magic happens between. So the magic happens on the spectrum. That's why those oppositions are so informative. Use your breath. Thumbs together, hands over heart. Feel your breath. Send your attention to your heart. Place of compassion, source of compassion for yourself and for others. Palms in front, facing up in a gesture of giving or receiving. Perhaps this is the correction that's occurring now, is to make that giving and that receiving more balanced. Hand back to Anjali Mudra, fold forward. With a lot of gratitude, namaste.